Hey, I'm Tracy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am at the Northampton House in American Fork, Utah. It is a beautiful old house, beautiful wedding reception center, and I just delivered this wedding cake. I thought the design is just elegant, so pretty. It was mostly the bride's idea. She and I sat down and designed it together, but mostly she did the designing and I did the executing. So now I'm going to show you how I decorated it. As you saw, this is a 4-tier cake. I will start with a 6-inch cake. Around the outside, I put a buttercream dam to keep this delicious raspberry filling on the inside. Then I'll stack it up. After it's all stacked, I will apply a thin crumb coat just to keep the crumbs stuck to the cake. After chilling it for about 20 minutes, I'll apply a thicker final coat of buttercream. Using my bench scraper, I will smooth out the top, then the sides, and a little gadget I made out of a mylar folder. I'm using it to sharpen up the edge. Along with the 6-inch, I will also do an 8-inch, a 10-inch, and a chocolatey chocolate 12-inch tier. The 10-inch tier I covered with a blue marble fondant. To make that marble, I first started with a medium blue and white marbled fondant, and since I like the bright, crisp colors in marble, I added some deep blue stripes and white stripes. Then I mixed them together, but I didn't mix it too much. So sorry, my arms get in the way. Then I rolled it out. I love watching how the marble pattern comes to life as I roll it. Fold that fondant over my rolling pin and drape it over the cake. Then I'll remove all the bubbles and folds with my hands and fondant smoothers and trim the excess off. And crisp up the edge by pinching the smoothers together. The 12-inch tier I covered in plain white fondant. Then with a medium blue fondant, the same color I put on the 8-inch tier, I created many hydrangea flowers. I made some large ones and some medium. Then one by one, I glued them onto the 12-inch tier. I'm using this shell mold from Katie Sue Molds to create the shells for the top tier. Just place the fondant in there, squish it in really well. I do the large one and the medium one. Then I stick it in the freezer and it pops out beautifully. This is not a promoted video, I just like the mold. If you'd like to purchase one yourself, I'll leave a link down in the description box. I'm putting a little piping gel on the back of this, then sticking it on the cake, and then I'll move them into position. So far, so good. As you can see, I am alternating the large shells and the medium shells. Now using the number 3 round tip, I am going to pipe some strings. Down at the bottom, I just have some register tape to act as a guide. I don't want the strings actually touching the tape, but quite close. And here's a slightly wet paintbrush that I'm cleaning up those ends with. I'll make those swags all around the cake. Then I'll downsize to a number 2 round tip. I'll pipe another swag just above the first. I want to pipe these. I'm mostly letting gravity pull it down before I finish it off. With the same number 2 tip, I will also overpipe the number 3 strings. Again, I'll downsize to a number 1 piping tip. With this tip, I'll overpipe the number 2 strings. I missed the spot on that a little bit, so I'll use my damp paintbrush just to move it into place. Same with that one. You'd think this would be easy for me now, but still it takes a steady hand and patience. Now that all 3 of those swags are piped all around the cake, I'm going to pipe some more swags on top of it. This time alternating to the medium-sized shells. This time I'll do the first string with a number 2 tip. Again, I'll use a number 1 tip to overpipe the number 2, and I'll add a second string right on top. At this point where all the strings meet is a little messy, but I had planned to put a little blue flower there to tidy up the design. Here I'm using another Katie Sue mold. I believe this is the little filler flowers. I'll also leave a link down in the description box for that. Now with a little dot of royal icing, I'm just going to stick that fondant flower on there. I'm going to fold up the petals just a little bit. Use my paintbrush so I don't ruin those strings, because any harsh touch will just make them drop right off. I'll put these flowers on all the large shells, and on the small shells I'll just put a dot and leave it as a dot. Here at home I stacked the 8-inch cake and the 6-inch cake. And as a border, I'm using a number 6 round piping tip and just piping a nice little beaded border. And for some extra depth, I'm piping 2 more layers of little beads. I also stacked the 12-inch cake and the 10-inch cake at home. This time I used a fondant bead border, and I made sure to put some support dowels in the 10-inch cake because I'll finish the stacking at the venue. And again, use fondant beads to clean up the gap between the 8-inch and the 10-inch tier. Now that the cake is all stacked, I'm using silver luster dust to add some accent to the marble layer. As always, thank you so much for watching as I decorated this cake. I invite you to subscribe and leave me a comment. Hey, do you have a question specifically for me? It would be my pleasure to answer you the best I can with the knowledge I have. So down in the description box, you will find a link where you can ask me your questions and I will answer you in a video just like this. Just me and you, one-on-one. So go ahead and click that, ask me your questions. I'm really excited to help you learn more. Bye.